What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as the market's going, I just want to mention that right now the market's trying to bounce very close to our 200 EMAs. We got this big sell-off on SPY only for us to slingshot back up, and we have this resistance between 674 and 675. So we're going to be watching that very closely. We could draw a trend line right over here, which is going to be our resistance. I do think that SPY could attempt to test this. Now, some catalysts to watch for include the Supreme Court reviewing President Trump's tariffs and their legality. We're going to see what happens as time goes on. President Trump also mentioned that in case they do rule against his tariffs, right, it would be devastating for our country, in his opinion. And simultaneously, him and his team have to come up with a second game plan. That's what we're hearing so far, but we will see what the Supreme Court end up doing. On top of this, the U.S. Senate is expected to vote on legislation to end the government shutdown. We're going to see what happens. They voted about 14 times already and they were unsuccessful. So we're going to see if this could happen. If the bill passes, it's going to keep the government open up until November 21st. The bill has been revised and very soon they're going to be reviewing everything. So keep that in mind, at least for the time being, just to see what ends up happening. If they end up passing a bill to once again temporarily delay the shutdown or even like halt it for now up until November 21st to fund the government temporarily, that would be a bullish piece of news and that could help the market bounce if it gets some news like that over the weekend. We'll see, just to be safe, if that ends up being the case. If this government shutdown ends and the government's funded up until November 21st, that could be very impactful. But then by November 21st, they have to come up with another bill to extend things all over again. But once again, even if it's just a temporary bill, even if it's a bill that just temporarily funds the government for a couple of weeks, of course, that would be better than what we currently have, and that could still be temporarily bullish for the stock market. On top of this, when it comes to news involving the markets, let me just put this out there. For Monday, this is going to be very, very minor. We just have some bill auctions. Tuesday, we just have some employment data that could cause some volatility. On Wednesday, we have more Fed speakers than Myron from the Fed giving a speech. Nothing really much is coming out for Thursday. I believe CPI is going to be delayed unless the government shutdown ends up being, it ends essentially, at least temporarily, if it's just ending, and the government is funded up until November 21st, then it's possible that the data could be coming out. So Thursday could be a big day depending on what happens. And then for Friday, there's not really much except for PPI data. We'll see if that causes volatility or not. So that's pretty much it for the calendar. It's still very, very minor data. Some private sector data could come out causing some volatility, but other than that, there's not really much else unless the government gets funded temporarily. On top of this, this is what the earnings calendar looks like. There's not really much for Monday. Except later on during the week, we do have Disney announcing their earnings. We have Walt Disney and a few more, but that's pretty much it. Nothing else too significant. So looking at the setup, SPY has been dumping quite a bit. I mentioned that this red line is going to be a significant support, and between 660 and 664, that's where SPY had big support. We came super close to 660 and we bounced, and we held the red line right here, our 200 EMA. So this line right here held, and now it looks like we're going to be trying to bounce for essentially 675 or this upper trend line, which is where the EMAs happen to be. Then we'll see if you reject or break past this or not, but as of right now, there is some upside potential. On the QQQ, we have support down here at this 602 area. If we lose this, we could be looking for a bigger dip lower, but if we hold this, as of right now, we're favoring a rebound attempt for essentially 617. We could see some kind of bounce here, and we're going to see if we could break out of this channel or not. As of right now, it's doing a good job. On the IWM, we're trying to reclaim our 200 EMA. We actually dumped towards my targets. I called out 235. We came very close to 235, and then we bounced. So we could be looking for an attempt to get back up towards our 242 to 244 area, back where these EMAs happen to be, for some temporary upside. ES is also trying to bounce. We're going to see if 6765 holds. If so, we're looking for 6780 to 6800 in that range, and we'll see if we reject, but there is some upside potential. NQ also has resistance at 25,265 to 25,400 for some temporary upside, and we'll see if we turn or not. So watch that very closely. On Bitcoin, we have a double bottom right here. We're going to see if we bounce back up to 105,000. So watch and see what happens as time goes on as we try to rebound. On Tesla, we dumped quite a bit all the way down towards 420, came very close. Now we're rebounding, so we could be looking for a retest of 440 for a temporary bounce. We will see if the government gets temporarily funded or if something else happens, if that's going to be the catalyst. Nvidia dumped all the way down to 180 only to bounce, so it looks like it might be revisiting 194 next week. Apple is just consolidating between 269 and 267. I think we consolidate for now. On AMD, we're trying to bounce back up towards 239 for a temporary move up. For Coinbase, we have resistance at 312. If that breaks, we're looking for essentially 317. Amazon's looking a bit more bullish. We're going to be favoring 250 as our targets. Meta is going to be favoring essentially 635 for a temporary move up. And then Google is going to be favoring essentially 282. And Microsoft is favoring a push for 506. I think 500 is going to be tested. We'll see if we break that to push more. And last but not least, the VIX got this rejection, which could be bringing us lower back down towards that 18.3 area. So watch that very closely. So in my honest opinion, the market looks like it wants to temporarily bounce, and we're going to see what the catalyst is to help this market bounce. Is it going to be the Supreme Court ruling against President Trump's tariffs, forcing him to use different means to enact them? Or is it going to be because the government's about to get funded this time around? I don't know for sure, but it's a possibility. I'll give you guys an update over the weekend in case that happens. If we see the government pass this piece of legislation, the government could be funded up until November 21st, just temporarily, which could benefit workers, employees, people that are on benefits, and a lot of different things out there. So this could be very, very big, and this could also help the markets to some extent. We'll see what the catalyst is. Let's be very, very patient, and we'll see if the market could bounce. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be very, very patient with this, but it does look like we want to go a little bit higher because of this monstrous bounce that happened at the end of the day. So be ready for next week. Look for some consolidation and a pump higher towards our EMAs and the upper areas. And I'll give you guys an update later on during the weekend. I may not upload a video tomorrow. I just want to rest for some time, and then I will for sure be back on Sunday. So I'll see you guys for sure on Sunday. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see if I get time to record a video. But until then, as always, I wish you all nothing but the best, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. One more thing I just want to mention, at least for the markets, for Nvda, I think this is actually very significant for tech. I wanted to just mention that Nvda had these gaps we were watching, and we basically filled all the gaps. All the gaps down here got filled on Nvda, and we're bouncing near support. So overall, there's a good chance Nvidia tries to rebound, and this could lead the markets. There's also another gap up here to fill, so there will eventually be a time we see a nice rebound. The same thing could be said about Tesla stock, but it also depends on other factors. And the QQQ also filled its gaps, so I do think that there is some upside potential for a temporary bounce. Okay, so that's what we're seeing so far. Anyways, have a good weekend, guys. I'll go over more details later on, and peace out.